Hello everyone, my name is Subhas and today I'm presenting a demo class about loops in Python. In this class we will especially talk about two types of loop, for and while loop. So let's begin by understanding what is a loop. Loops lets your program repeat action again and again. It means if you have a similar type of task that is to be done repeatedly, we can use loops to make our code less messier, easy to understand, and it will help us save our time. And we can also make our code more flexible, as it will as it will it will be easier to update our code when need be. So, mm, as we already said, there are two types of loops we will be discussing today: for and while loop. For loop is you generally use when you know how many times you want to repeat a certain action. uh, it's like saying for each time in this list do this, or if you need a, let's say if you need a sequence of number from 1 to 10, so you can use this loop to get a sequence of number from 1 to 10. We'll move on to the example later. So before that, let's understand the basic structure or syntax of the for loop. Here, as you can see in the screen, for loop starts with a header and for, and after that we will introduce a variable which is also called counter variable, and followed it is followed by in. Here in uh, connects the variable with the sequence. Sequence can be string or a list or a dictionary or anything that can seem iterable in Python. And the error ends with a colon. Below the colon, we have our code we can execute. So here we have an example, uh, printing a number from 1 to 5. I have already preloaded the code in the Google Colab. Here, the we can you can see the result, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. It gave us a sequence which starts from 1 and ends at 4. It is the here range function specifies how many numbers we will get in the end. In the range function, the function starts with 1, which is start, and stops at 5. It means it will stop before 5. It will not reach 5. So we just get 4 in our result. And below the code, we have print I. It is simply printing I for each iteration. For the first iteration, the print function printed 1. In the second one, it printed 2. In the third one, it printed 3, and so on. So I have another example here. Here we have we needed a code which will print hello 5 times. So we can simply use print function to get the result of hello 5 times. Or but if you need more hellos, let's say 100 or 200 times, then it will be simply too long or too tedious. So instead of using the simple functions, we can use loop. So in this example, we have our header part where for x in range 5 print hello. The code is same as the example above, but you might be confused. Here we have no starting point. uh, in this part, in the range function, if we don't start a if we don't have a starter point, the range will assume the starter point at 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 as a sequence, and it will print the hello 5 times. For the 0 time, we have one hello. For the first time, we have one hello, and so on. Similarly, Uh, similarly, we can use the for loop to sum the numbers of a list as well. Here we have started a variable called total and with initial value 0, and we have started our loop. Here for number in num in 1, 2, and 3, we have a list, and we have given a code total plus equal to number. Here it is same as total equal to total plus 1, total plus number, sorry. So the total will be as the loop starts, the first value of number, that is 1, will be here, and the value of total will be 1, and the next value of num will be 2, and the value of total will be 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. In the third expression, the value of total will be 3 and the next value will be 3, and we get a total of 6. Now let's move on to the while function. We'll use another example of for functions in the practice session of this class. So let us understand while loops. As we already discussed, for loop are generally used when we know how many times a loop need to be iterated. But it's not always applicable in real life. In some cases, a loop can be needed to be iterated until a condition is fulfilled. Uh, let's move on to the structure. We'll move on to the example later on. So while function has a simple structure, it simply has while a condition, certain condition that needs to be fulfilled, and below that it ends on colon, and below that we'll have our code. So let's look at an example. Here we have a same example as the for loop. We are printing numbers from 1 to 5. In this example, we are starting our code with a initial variable I, which has a value 0, and we started our loop while I is less than 5, and ended it with colon. We simply printed I, and the code will iterate iterate with first value of I as 0, the second value is 1, third is 2, fourth is 3, and fifth is 5. And our condition is I is less than 5. So above that condition, the code will not execute and it will stop. It is important to remember that we must update the value of I, otherwise the code will be iterated infinitely, and and the value will not be updated. It will simply print 0 all over and over again if we don't have this part in the code. So it simply says I equal to I plus 1, which means for the first value of I, which is 0, we'll add 1 to it, and it will become 1. For the second iteration, the value of I will be 1, and we will again add 1 to it, which will become 2, and so on. So let's move on to the next example. While loop runs as long as the condition is true. It means, uh, as we discussed already, here also we are counting to 5, and it stopped at 5, and we started the count as 1. Let's give you another example which might be easier to understand. Let's say you need a name. You need a name to be provided by a user, and you need a code to repeat the question unless and until the user will provide a name. Uh, I have a simple code here, in which I started the code mm, uh, uh, by a name variable which has an empty string, which will be later filled by the name provided by the user. And the code start is while name is empty. The name is empty. The name will be provided by user using input function. So let's say I haven't given a name here. The code repeats. Again, it is repeating. Again, it is repeating. But once I provide a name, the code below it will execute, which says welcome Subhas. So until this condition is satisfied, this condition is true, the code below will be repeated indefinitely. But once the condition is false, then the line of code below the loop will be executed. So again, we have uh, we have talked about mistakes already in while loop, because we need to update the countdown. Because if you don't update the countdown, the code will be keep running, the loop will continue again and again unless we stop the compiler. So we have some practice question here which we will discuss again. uh, we have a question which says we have to print even numbers between 1 and 20. As we learned loops in this class, we might go about this question in many different ways. So I have some. Uh, I have used for loop for the for the first case. Here, it's a simple code which have a number as a counter variable, and we have a range starting from 1 and ending at 21. So we have a value starting from 1 and which ends at 20. And if number divide 2 equal to 0, print number. We have introduced a if condition uh, to get a even number. If the number is divided by 2 will be 0, we can print that number, which the number will be inside the range given by this range function. So every number that is divisible by 2 will be printed in our result, which are the even numbers. We can also solve this problem using while loop. We go about this by starting a uh, variable number with initial value 1, and we have given a condition where number is less than or equal to 20. We can also say it number is less than 20, but here we have a number less than and equal to 20, or we can also say less than 21. Again, the if statement is same. If his number is divisible by 2, we will print the number, and we must not forget to update the number, because if we don't do that, the loop will continue to execute uh, with the value. Mm, we can also use range function, a simple range function to get the desired result. Here we simply using a third parameter step in the range function. We are starting the range by with 2, ending the range in 21. That means the value will be 20, within below 21, that is 20, and we are increasing the step by 2. So we can also we have used three ways to solve the same problem, which are for loop, a while loop, and even range in the for loop without the if statement. So in coding, we can solve any problem by very different ways. There is no absolute way to solve a problem. We can use what we learn and use our creativity to solve the problem. In the higher level, we'll try to minimize the resources used to execute the code, and time should be less. And but we'll talk about that later. So we have another problem which is asking us to make a program which will keep asking us passwords until we found a match. So for this code, we will give a variable correct password to the given right password, and we also give a variable input user with a blank string, and we are starting the while loop where user input is not equal to correct password. Here, this part means the user input is not equal to correct password, and we'll get the user input from the user. And if the correct password is granted, we'll get a message X is granted. Otherwise, the loop will keep repeating. Let's try a random password. It's asking for the password again. It's asking for the password again. But if you provide the right password, that is Python 123, it said access granted. So it is a simple program to get the right password using while loop. Here, this is the condition for the while loop, where the until the password is incorrect, the loop will keep iterating. But if you get the right password, the loop will end and we'll move on to the next part of the code. So now we have our third question, which is asking us to print numbers from 1 to 10 using for loop and reverse count them using while loop. Here, the code is simple. For the first part, we have used for loop, where we simply stated a counter variable I, and we have specified the range which starts from 1 and ends at 11. That means it will show the result until up and until 10, and we simply printed the I. With each iteration we will get a ascending order of result, that is 1 2 3 4 to 10. Similarly, we can also reverse count 10 to 1 using while loop. Here we start the code with a count variable which we have specified to be 10, and while the count is greater than or equal to 1, we'll use print count. Here we have used the stopper, or whatever you can call it. It will stop the code from iterating infinitely. Here the count will be, the value of count will be decreased by 1 in every iteration. That means the value of count will start from 10, and it will be 9 8 7 6, and until it reach 1, the code will stop. So these are the common uses of for and while loop used in Python. We have other many uses, other many things we haven't talked about, like continue and break functions, which might be come in later classes. For today, the getaway will be for loop are used to used to the tasks which we know how many times we need to repeat. On the other hand, while loop are used in tasks in which the number of repeats are not specific, but it stops if we meet the conditions. So thank you. Let's hope we'll meet again in another class.